Welcome back to the Adam Schefter podcast as we get ready for week 9 of the NFL season and the NFL trade deadline that follows 2 days later, Tuesday, November 4th, 4 p.m. Eastern. But first, before we get to the trade deadline, we get to Ty Schmit, the co-host of the Pat McAfee Show, my friend, my colleague, and the man who will take us on the journey through Thursday's six-pack.
Thank you very much, Schefty. Good to be here as always. Week 9 already. Kind of crazy. I know I say that every week, but it is. Weather's starting to change. Listen, the last couple weeks, we've kind of talked about how the slate, at face value, maybe isn't the best. Kind of another one of those weekends a little bit when you're looking at it. But we do have, the crown jewel, maybe the game of the season. Let's get right to it, Schefty. Topic number 1, we have the game of the week, Chiefs at Bills. What do you think?
You know what's amazing to me, Ty? Since 2020, these two teams that are not even in the same division have played 9 times. This will be the 10th matchup between Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen. It has become the modern-day version of Tom Brady versus Peyton Manning. That's what Allen versus Mahomes has become. This is the latest iteration, the latest meeting of these two great quarterbacks squaring off in Buffalo in what might be the final matchup in this particular stadium. Certainly if Buffalo can't beat out Kansas City, can't beat out New England, can't win the division, this will be the final time that Patrick Mahomes ever steps foot into this stadium in Buffalo. And the Chiefs right now are rolling. We've had them atop our six-pack list of teams each of the last 2 weeks. When Rashee Rice has come back, it has changed the dynamic with everything on the offense. You can't key on Travis Kelce. You can't key on Xavier Worthy. You have to pay attention to Rashee Rice, who right now I would say is a top 5 wide receiver. How many wide receivers we could take right now ahead of Rashee Rice? And they're going up against a Buffalo Bills team that frankly struggled. Bill, a little disappointing. Josh Allen, the reigning MVP, has not been playing at an MVP caliber level this year. He's been good, but he's been Superman in the past. Superman. This year, Superman has been Daniel Jones. This year, Superman has been Jonathan Taylor. This year, Superman's been other players and other teams, not Josh Allen. And he's going to need to go back to being Superman to beat Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs on Sunday.
Yeah, it is kind of the tale of two cities. And I know, every time these two teams play, you can kind of throw everything out the window because they have been such close competitive games where really either team can win. But at the start of the year, we were talking about the Chiefs missing the playoffs. Hey, is the dynasty officially over? And on the flip side, Buffalo looked as good as anyone did. We were talking about, hey, as of right now, the Bills are Super Bowl favorites. And obviously they haven't looked that great. I mean, big win last week against Carolina, but this is really kind of the stepping stone as we get into November and the football, starts to ratchet up a little bit and matters more. This could really, both these teams could go one way or the other depending on Sunday's outcome.
No doubt about it. And listen, their records are almost identical right now. And Buffalo's trailing New England in the AFC East. New England is starting to put some distance with other people. And New England you could look at as a viable contender to win that AFC East title. But again, Chiefs, Bills. This might be the first time they meet this season. It certainly might not be the last, but it should be a great matchup on Sunday.
Yeah, without a doubt. Kind of wish it was Sunday Night Football with the standalone, so you don't have to act like you care about the other 3 games just as much as you do the Bills-Chiefs, but it's going to be unbelievable nonetheless. Let's move on to topic number 2 of this Thursday's six-pack, Schefty. Yesterday, Aidan Hutchinson signed a 4-year, $180 million extension with the Lions. $141 million guaranteed. In your opinion, what stands out the most about Aidan Hutchinson's extension?
Well, the first thing I'm going to say to you is that this is a deal that had been worked on for weeks, if not months. Weeks, if not months. The Dallas Cowboys and Micah Parsons tried to work on their deal for weeks, if not months. How much drama was there surrounding Micah Parsons and the Cowboys compared to the drama that went on between Aidan Hutchinson and the Detroit Lions? Did you hear anything about any struggles in negotiations between Detroit and Aidan Hutchinson? Did you hear anything about it at all?
No, so much so that I thought that the plan was, hey, they're just going to take care of this after the season.
And yet they were talking all through the season. They were trying to get the deal done right before the start of the regular season. They didn't get it done. For a little while, it looked like it wouldn't get done at all. And yet both sides stuck to it and were trying to get this worked out all along without any attention and any fanfare at all. We never heard the owner of the Detroit Lions weigh in and say, we're disappointed. We thought we had a deal. We never heard Aidan Hutchinson come out and say, I want to trade from the Lions because we can't get a deal done. We never heard any of this. Okay? They went on and negotiated in quiet without any drama and get the deal done in the latest of a long line of pass rush deals that follow essentially Max Crosby, Myles Garrett, Danielle Hunter, Micah Parsons, and now, of course, Aidan Hutchinson getting this deal done that pays him $45 million a year on average and ties him to the Detroit Lions and the city of Detroit through the year 2030. And the Lions have done an unbelievable job of getting their young players under contract. If we take a look at the list, and I have it down in my computer, if you'll give me a moment to just kind of open it up, they have spent almost $1 billion to re-sign Aidan Hutchinson, Jared Goff, Penei Sewell, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Kirby Joseph, Aleem McNeil, Taylor Decker, David Montgomery, and Jameson Williams. And those are foundational players that you want to keep in place and want to build around. But again, I come back to the drama, the lack of drama. There was not any of that here in Detroit the way that there was in Dallas. And the Lions keep one of the elite pass rushers in the league and keep them in their city with their franchise for years to come.
Yeah, it really is crazy because I did just kind of assume, hey, maybe they want to make sure that that leg is all the way back. So, they'll see how the season pans out and they'll address this after the season. And obviously he's looked like the same guy. He's back to normal. But you're right. I mean, the Lions know, especially with him being from Michigan, going to Michigan, like that's not the kind of guy. That's a little different than Micah Parsons. I don't think, especially with him being so synonymous with them turning everything around, I don't think there was ever a scenario where they could allow him to get out of the building. And you talk about drafting, developing, and paying your own guys almost $1 billion. You can add Jahmyr Gibbs and Jack Campbell to that list. They're going to be up soon, and two stalwart pieces on that team. It is really remarkable what the Lions have been able to do since Dan Campbell got to Detroit. And I think I said this yesterday on Pat's show. I think it kind of serves as a reminder to a lot of fans of teams who aren't good and haven't been good for a very long time. If you get the right people in there, I know it's cliche, but like it matters. And they really can change the trajectory of a franchise if you do get those right people.
And it's a great point you raised, Ty, and I'll say this. I went to school in the state of Michigan. I watched the Lions. I watched Barry Sanders walk away from the franchise because he could not handle the ineptitude of the franchise. Calvin Johnson essentially did the same. They were so poorly run for such a long period of time. They were rarely relevant. They were incompetent more than they were relevant. And this is a franchise that has turned it around. And really, they've become one of the great franchises in football now, right? And they've built an organization with Brad Holmes as their general manager and Dan Campbell as their head coach, other people in the front office like John Dorsey, Mike Disner. Like, these guys have really put together a A-plus franchise right now, and they're paying their players. And look, when you do that, when you draft the right guys and you're winning games, you're going to have to shell out $1 billion to keep these guys around. But you want to do that. Those are the problems that every franchise would love to have moving forward.
Without a doubt. And even, Aidan Hutchinson, you look at that contract, I think some more of the details came out today, and it's like the cap hits aren't crazy. Obviously it's a little backloaded, and at some point, they're going to be on the hook for quite a bit of money. But with how much pass rushers are getting paid right now, in 2 to 3 years, like that's going to be small peanuts for what a guy like Aidan Hutchinson brings to the Lions. So yeah, all around, just a great move by the Lions. And yeah, I think you're right. They are one of the kind of benchmarks for how an NFL franchise is, currently run right now. They're in top 5, top 3. I mean, they've been remarkable. And 10 years ago, no one was saying that, and no one was even close to saying that. So good on the Lions. Let's stick in the NFC North for topic number 3 of this Thursday's Six Pack, Shefty. So much quarterback drama surrounding the Vikings. Carson Wentz playing injured for a long time. Was it a soft benching of J.J. McCarthy? Is this guy ready? Is he the guy? Where are we at right now with Minnesota and J.J. McCarthy?
It's time for J.J. McCarthy to show the type of quarterback that he is and can be, because I think he's been in the NFL for 25 games, and he's been injured for 23 of the 25. Last year, he had the torn meniscus that sidelined him for the entire season. This year, he had the high ankle sprain in week 2, I believe it was, that sidelined him until now. He was back at practice this week in full. He is expected, barring something unforeseen, to start Sunday at Detroit against the Lions, and Aidan Hutchinson, with his new contract, in the state where essentially he made himself into a first-round draft pick not far up the road from the University of Michigan. So it's a huge weekend for J.J. McCarthy and the Minnesota Vikings. And again, we look at that quarterback draft class. Those quarterbacks have already begun to acquit themselves. Caleb Williams, people still waiting to see what he can do. Jaden Daniels has been great. Drake May has been the best of all of them this season. Bo Nix has shined. Michael Penix has been injured up and down. We're still waiting to see what we got with him. But this is a chance for J.J. McCarthy to show that, yeah, he's as good as some of his draft classmates. He's a quarterback the Vikings can build around. He's worthy of the first-round draft pick that Minnesota used on him. I think everybody's waiting to see, because J.J. McCarthy's played 8 quarters of football this year, and really it was 1 really good quarter and 7 quarters where you're going, does he have it? Does he have it, right? So now he comes back. He himself has said that he believes he's healthy, finally, which is key. And we'll get a nice long look at what type of quarterback J.J. McCarthy is, which I think really is one of the most intriguing questions going into Week 9, is how is he going to fare on the road against the Lions?
Shefty, we talked about this a couple weeks ago when Jackson Dart first started for the New York Giants, and we were looking at their schedule, because it was, hey, is he going to start against the Chargers, or are they maybe going to, at that time, the Chargers were playing so well, and it was, hey, should we start him this week against a really tough defense, or should we maybe wait until next week and start him against the Saints, who at that point, and still, I guess, look awful. But every team is good in the NFL. I guess I'm wondering if Carson Wentz plays great, and he's hurt, and he's having season-ending surgery, so it kind of eliminates it. But if he would have played great on Thursday night against the Chargers and they win that game, do you think he's starting this weekend, or do you think the plan all along was, hey, we're not going to put J.J. McCarthy back in there until he feels like he is absolutely 100%?
I think it could be a little bit of both there, Ty. I think it could be that we want J.J. to be 100%, but we're going to ride Carson if he's playing well and winning. Like, it could be both. But, of course, he underwent season-ending shoulder surgery this week. He's out for the year. So it becomes a moot point because he was playing hurt. And frankly, he had some really strong moments and some moments where, playing through the pain that he did and being the warrior that he is, he was able to tough it out and didn't work out the way that he and the Vikings would have wanted at certain times. But I think they wanted and needed to get a good look at J.J. McCarthy. They need to know what they have here. They got to get that answer. Like, you can't have him on the sidelines forever. He's got to be back out there. Got to see what he's capable of. And the start of them seeing what he's capable of is Sunday in Detroit.
Yeah, and a nice little gift is, playing a Lions team who is arguably one of the best teams in the NFL right now and playing unbelievable. But obviously the choices in the offseason accelerate this and add the pressure, with what Sam Darnold's doing in Seattle and Daniel Jones in Indianapolis, having both those guys in the building. But we'll see. You're right. He has to play. They high draft pick, and boy, I tell you what, yeah, if he's not going to be the guy, for the long-term future, you obviously would like to know that now as opposed to 2 years from now.
Well, it would have been nice to know that at the end of last year when you had Sam Darnold and Daniel Jones in your building. Think about that for a moment.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Sam Darnold has gone on to become a standout in Seattle, and Daniel Jones is vying for Offensive Player of the Year, MVP, with a team that has the best record in all of football and currently would be the number one seed in the AFC. Both quarterbacks were in the Vikings building last year, both. And they passed on both because they believed in J.J. McCarthy. So now they need to see that J.J. McCarthy can live up to the hopes and beliefs that they had in this young quarterback.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's the point that, some people miss when they just immediately want to jump to JJ McCarthy sucks. This guy, what were they thinking? But obviously they really liked what they had in him. Otherwise, they wouldn't have gotten rid of Sam Darnold and, Daniel Jones. They would have found a way to maybe make it work. So there's obviously some disconnect there, but, he's still a young guy. I mean, I know he's been in the league now, but again, we talk about this all the time. He's a young quarterback. He needs to play. That's how he's going to develop. So we'll see on Sunday. Let's move on to topic number 4 of this Thursday's six-pack Schefty. Tyler Shough is in line to start for the Saints for the rest of the season, potentially. What do you think of that?
That's the plan. And look, I thought Spencer Rattler actually played fairly well when he was in there. I thought that guy in that situation played pretty well. And they replaced him last week with Tyler Shough, and I watched him last week. And here's the thing. Again, I don't study quarterbacks in depth, but I watch football long enough to know, right away, you see something or you don't. And the initial viewing of Tyler Shough, his balls were all over the place the first week. They were all over the place. It was not entirely accurate. They think they have a quarterback. And like we're talking about with the Vikings and J.J. McCarthy, we'll find out if the Saints are right here. But they have the rest of the season to now judge him, see what they have in him, and determine whether or not he is somebody that they want to keep around next year and build around, whether he's that good, or whether they need to go get another quarterback in the draft. I think right now, the Saints would be slated today to have the number 1 overall pick. So if you have the number 1, number 2, number 3 overall pick, you've got to figure out if you've got a quarterback when you've invested a second-round draft pick in him, or whether he's somebody that you're not going to be able to count on, and you got to go take a quarterback again. I think that's what the rest of this Saints season is about to me, and it starts on Sunday. And by the way, you talk about the tough spot that J.J. McCarthy's getting into. How about Tyler Shough making his first NFL start in L.A. against the Rams?
Yeah, not exactly fair, but obviously the NFL isn't fair. And that's an interesting situation because obviously it's going to be an uphill battle regardless. We'll see how steep of an uphill battle that is based on the trade deadline. We're hearing them basically maybe, selling a bunch of their weapons and getting rid of those. And I don't, it's really weird because I think going into this season, when we looked at the quarterback class in college, the idea was that the Saints weren't going to be good. And it was basically, hey, this team's going to be terrible. They're not exactly tanking, but they're going to end up, winning the Arch Manning sweepstakes next fall. And now you look at that quarterback class in college and it's maybe not, a generational class like we thought it was going to be. And it might be a guy like Fernando Mendoza as opposed to Arch Manning. So obviously you want to take a real good look at Tyler Shough because, man, having the first overall pick, you want to make sure if it's going to be a quarterback that guy's a home run, because if they miss on that guy, like the Saints are kind of doomed to being in purgatory for a little bit while longer.
By the way, the 2 teams right now, I believe, with 1 win are the New York Jets and the New Orleans Saints. And I would think that both teams are going to take long, hard looks at quarterbacks. So if you're the Saints, you need to figure out if Tyler Shough is that guy.
Exactly. So we'll see on Sunday. I don't know if anyone's really expecting much out of him, but that could be a fun little story if he comes in and plays well. All right, Schefty, let's move on to topic number 5 of this Thursday's six-pack. Just mentioned it and this is, hypothetical, obviously, because it hasn't happened yet. The trade deadline is on Tuesday. As of right now, what is the biggest name that you're hearing that you think could potentially be dealt?
Well, we mentioned the Saints, and I still think the Saints will wind up dealing at least one of their wide receivers, either Rashid Shaheed and or Brandon Cooks. I still think the Miami Dolphins, who play tonight, still could wind up trading at least one of their edge rushers, either Jalen Phillips or Bradley Chubb. I think that could happen. I think Jacoby Myers, the Raiders will get some calls. We'll see if there's a team that's willing to offer enough to pry him loose from there. We mentioned the Vikings. I still think they're going to have to go out and get a veteran quarterback at some point by the deadline, because they did sign John Wolford to the practice squad this week. He is a veteran, and maybe that's good enough for them, but do they decide, hey, we could upgrade it, veteran quarterback, another spot to watch. But as we record this Thursday morning, in the month of October, we've had Cam Robinson. By the way, the Cleveland Browns made 3 of the first 4 trades. Cam Robinson, they traded cornerbacks with Jacksonville, Tyson Campbell for Greg Newsome. Joe Flacco they sent to Cincinnati, much to the chagrin of Mike Tomlin. We had the Ravens and Chargers exchange defensive players. Odafe Oweh, a safety, goes back to Baltimore. We had the New England Patriots trade away 2 defensive players they weren't playing on Tuesday or Wednesday. Kyle Duggar, the safety, to Pittsburgh. Keon White, the edge rusher, to San Francisco. On Monday this past week, we had Roger McCreary traded from Tennessee to the Rams. And then on Wednesday, we had the Eagles trade wide receiver John Mechie to the Jets for nickelback Michael Carter. That is, right now, 8 trades. 8. I think there's no way we're not getting to 12 by Tuesday. There's no way, because, again, I think the Saints trade a receiver. I think the Dolphins trade an edge rusher. That's 10. I don't know what the other trades are, but there'll be other trades. There will be other trades that are coming.
Yeah, I mean, you obviously would know more than just about anybody, but sitting here at 8, I don't think it's crazy to think that we'll land right on your previous prediction of 15. I think that could still happen. Like you said, I mean, obviously you're more in the know than a lot of people are, but there's so many rumors out there, and I guess we get this every year, but there are so many rumors out there for teams who are either kind of on the fringe or who are definitely going to be a playoff team. And there's chatter about, oh, you know, they would really like help here. They would like help here. They would like help here. And obviously the, what they give up has to be commensurate with what they're getting in return. But I don't think 15's out of the question.
And we said on the podcast on Tuesday, there's always that one curveball that you don't see. And I still think that something like that is always possible. I still think something like that is always possible. So we'll see how that plays out. There's always strange things that happen at the deadline. I've already heard a few interesting little scuttlebutt chatter things.
Sure. So is Monday would be the day then when all of this really picks up?
It could be. It could be. We could get some action Friday.
Yeah.
Could always get some action Monday. Tuesday there'll be like a little scampering, hurrying before the deadline.
Sure.
And so we'll see how that plays out. But again, I think we'll come in. We're at 8 now. The over-under 13 right now today.
All right. So yeah, I mean, if you're, keep your eyes peeled, essentially. Could
always.
Come today. Yeah.
By the way, I will say this. Yeah, it's true. I'm looking forward to Tuesday, like 4:10, and you go like this. I will take the podcast Tuesday. Like it's always, and I remember a couple of years ago, it was a very hectic trade deadline, very hectic. And I remember thinking, okay, well, at least now you get a chance to catch your breath. And I was so tired. I went home that night and got into bed, and I get woken up by about 11 o'clock, get a few texts that the Raiders just fired their head coach, Josh McDaniels, on Halloween night, hours after the NFL trade deadline, sprung to action, got up, did some reporting, made some calls, did some posts, did some TV, and then went back to bed about 1 a.m, completely wiped out. We're hoping nobody loses their job Tuesday night after the trade deadline time.
Exactly. So you have that to look forward to. If you're a fan of everyone else, or anyone else, I guess you just have a couple players to potentially look forward to. So that'll be fun in the coming days here. And then lastly, Schefty, let's move to the 6th and final topic of this Thursday's six-pack. In your opinion, what is we have the crown jewel. We have Chiefs-Bills. What is your second best game of the weekend?
I'm looking forward to Monday night, Dallas and Arizona. I'm looking forward to Sunday night, Seattle and Washington. But the game that I'm going to say to me right now would be in my number 2 slot as most interesting would be the Indianapolis Colts versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I say that for a couple of reasons. First of all, if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, you've lost the last 2 weeks. You lost at Cincinnati on a Thursday, and you lost at home in primetime to Green Bay. Now, we'll see if Baltimore is able to get a win on Thursday night against Miami. I would think that they have a decent chance to do that with Lamar. And if Baltimore wins, then there's even more pressure on Pittsburgh finding a way to upset the team that has the best record in the NFL. And the Colts, I think a lot of people still, I know you have in your city, but some people might not have had the chance to see how good they are and what's operating and working really well. And I made this point on Get Up this morning. As of today, the Indianapolis Colts might just have the Coach of the Year in Shane Steichen, the Rookie of the Year in Tyler Warren, the Offensive Player of the Year in Daniel Jones, and the MVP in Jonathan Taylor. Am I wrong there? Like,
No.
Couldn't you make an argument for all of those right now?
Yes, absolutely. And they have the best record in the NFL. So it's, that's a big part of it. I think you're right, though. I think for whatever reason, people are still very slow, and maybe it's the division, with the Jags kind of taking a little bit of a backseat after a hot start, beating the Chiefs on that Monday night. And the Texans offense, I know they had a big win last week, but their offense looking like it is. I think people are very reluctant to say that the Colts are real. But if you watch the games, and again, I've said this multiple times, I think it's a very good, kind of barometer of where your team is at. They annihilate the bad teams. The teams that they are supposed to beat, like, they absolutely kill them. They don't play down to their competition. So I also had that as my second best game of the week. But the other one that I think could be pretty interesting, given what both teams did last week and with how good their defenses are, is Denver at Houston. I think that's also
it's funny you say that. I like that, man. Like, I'm as a guy who covered the Broncos for 16 years, I'm always interested in what they do. But the Texans, people, what are we watching there? Like, a little indifferent on the Texans. But I saw that matchup, and I'm with you. I said to myself, ooh, this game really intrigues me. But I didn't think it would intrigue others as much as it did. But I'm glad to hear that you're on board with that game too, Ty.
Yeah, I think Denver is just a very fun watch in general, and Houston's they're not exact. I mean, it's not as bad, but I kind of think, or at least early in the season, it was like they're kind of the Browns counterpart a little bit. It's the same situation. Their defense keeps them in games and is relentless, and their offense, we're big C.J. Stroud fans over here. He's been great on the show every time he's come on, but he just hasn't looked like the same guy really since Bobby Slowick left. They had that unbelievable year together, and Bobby Slowick's name was up for head coaching jobs, and then out of nowhere he gets fired, and he's just an assistant down in Miami. And they looked, again, the 49ers are banged up. We understand that, but I think everyone still sees them as a good team, a tough out, a good opponent. And boy, the Texans kind of dominated them last week, and they looked good. So maybe they're starting that push where, everyone, it's like, hey, everyone's kind of forgotten about us and talk negatively about us, but we're still here, and they can still make a run.
And I think the Broncos are heading into a little bit of a dangerous territory in the sense that they just got past the Jets in London. They just got past the Giants. Then they played their best game of the season against Dallas at home, and now they go on the road. Like, this would be the spot where I could see, as great a coach as Sean Peyton is, Denver is going to need to keep up that A-level game to beat Houston and Houston. And I'll tell you the other interesting part about this is kind of interesting. When the Broncos hired Sean Payton, the other coach that they really loved in that hiring cycle, and would have had a great amount of interest in if he weren't so committed to the idea of going back to the franchise that he once played for, was DeMeco Ryans. So this is a matchup of two coaches that were probably at the top of the Broncos' wish list when Denver did give Sean Payton the job, and now they meet up in Houston on Sunday in a matchup that I like that you made your second most anticipated game of the weekend ahead of my Indy and Pittsburgh. So I took your Indianapolis Colts, you took my Denver Broncos, and that really is a great way to head into week 9. All right, Ty, great job this week as we look ahead to the upcoming games this week. Thank you to our great producers, Dan Stanzik, Rob Lorenzo, and to you, the listeners, for tuning into another Adam Schefter podcast. We'll be back in this spot Tuesday, post-NFL trade deadline, to look back on all the moves that were and weren't made, as well as all the games that are ahead in Week 10. Until then, enjoy Week 9, everybody.